Hi everybody, it's Stephanie Mo Davis. I'm here to do a live video with a friend of mine who I've been watching on YouTube for a very long time. His name is Will. I was just on a few moments ago trying to get him on and we were unsuccessful, and we are trying something different. So I'm hoping that he will be able to pop on this live any minute. Hi Alex. I just saw your post, Alex. Happy Thanksgiving to you, and I am grateful for everything. The good, the bad, and the ugly. You know it. I know you understand me. So let's just wait here for a minute for Will, guys, because he is just an incredible voice to me. I've been watching this gentleman on TV, on YouTube for, my goodness, 6 years. And he has such a powerful voice of transformation and change and things that we can do to improve and help us deal with what's going on here societally. All right, he's coming on, guys. I'm super excited. So give me a second. All right, I have to add them on. He should be coming. Thanks for watching. Hi, Larry. Please.
See. Hey, there we go.
Hey, Will. How are you?
Hey, what's going on, Steph? How's it going?
It's going great, and I'm so excited to be here. I was just telling some of my friends that I've been watching you for close to 6 years.
Yes.
You've been around a long
awesome.
time.
Same here. Well, I found you about 2 years ago, and I've been
2
kind
years
of Facebook stalking you for 2 years now.
Well, I've been stalking you for about 6 years, so I've got you on that one. But thank you so much for... I got you beat. Yeah. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. You are a gentleman that I can tune into every single day. Your commitment is on game, my friend. I am so impressed with your commitment to this work.
Absolutely. It's so needed because just, you know, as you know, the mental resolve that's needed just to be able to exist, you know, whether we talk about health wise, we bombarded with so many different, I'm gonna use the word negative, that's kind of hidden, whether we're talking about, you know, genetically modified organisms, chemtrails. It seems like we're in an environment where we are constantly under attack just to exist. And so it does require a certain amount of mental effort. And I think a lot of us don't really realize that it's like everything in life. If it's something that you're really passionate about or something that you want to manifest, that you want in your life, you really have to put in and do your due diligence in order for it to work.
I got to tell you, that is one of the reasons why I was so attracted to you when I found you 6 years ago or so, was there was a resonance within you where you weren't afraid. You weren't afraid to be honest. You weren't afraid to talk about what you've been through to get to this stage of commitment and to fight the constant entropy that we're under as human beings. It's so easy to get sucked in emotionally, get the limbic system hijacked. And very often you're right. You're really in the mental realm and the emotional as well. And a lot of my work revolves around doing this kind of emotional up-leveling of ourselves and our own thinking and feeling. Because what I see and what you also see is that the proclivity to be a victim and to forget about your responsibility with what you're digesting, either on the news, your friends, your family, your food, you have so much more power over your life experience than maybe you're led to believe. But what it takes is why I was attracted to you. I was like, wow, this guy is impressive. He's doing videos every single day. You're just, the commitment that you exude is something that I believe is really lacking. And it's so difficult when you're not in control of your thoughts, when you're not in control of your feelings, or you don't understand how your thoughts and your feelings are related, to just have moments of exhilaration and awe and forward progress, and then to just slip back, and just get on that loop.
Yep. Wow. That is so powerful, because, you know, what you just said, when I saw those images of you when you went through your issues, especially when you was in bed, and I don't know your whole story, which is something I would like for you to share, especially since a lot of my family members and my wife's family members are going through it, whether it's high blood pressure. There's quite a few members that are on dialysis and so on and so forth. You know, what you've been through and your testimony, that's why I was so impressed with what your testimony is and what you've done on that side is very similar to what I've done on the mental side, which is that it does require a certain amount of self-love. You said something yesterday, I think it was yesterday, that was so impactful when you talked about meaningful conversations, you know, and having those meaningful conversations, not only with yourself, but also with everyone else. And that is so, man, that is one of the, if not the most important thing. That's really what I did, was I just held myself accountable and I had those conversations. What's meaningful to me? And that gets into what I do, which is purpose. And purpose is the meaning or the reason why you're here. I had to have those heartfelt, meaningful conversations. I can't eat like this all the time. I can't just disrespect my body and my mind and expect for it to shine. That's not how it works. And so that's why I resonated with what you're saying, because it's the same thing physically that it is spiritually. We can't disrespect our body every day and then affect the function when we get older. It doesn't work like that. And it's the same thing mentally. You can't just watch, you know, garbage on TV all the time and then listen to this hardcore, whether it be hip hop or heavy metal, especially in our culture, man. It's, you know, we calling our women bees and this, that, and the other. And then, but we're supposed to go out and have positive relationships after listening to all that negative music. It doesn't work that way.
You know, that's one thing that's so powerful, is I really started to realize through my journey that everything's interconnected. Everything is interconnected. There is a fabric, there is a web that no matter what you're digesting, watching, feeling, communicating, what you're doing, it all matters. And even when you're alone in the secret of your own home, doing what you think you're doing that nobody knows about, to me, it's all connected. To me, I have no problem talking about my spiritual connection and my connection to the God of my own understanding. And I don't want to, I imagine that being, that energy is with me 24/7. That means that I don't get to check out and do something shady or whatever, or even have those thoughts. So it's really starting to understand, wow, we are this interconnected web, and we have to get right and face our own issues first before we can reflect that outward. And I just really want to stress and suggest for viewers, and to remind myself, because all of this is also for me as a reminder, that you have to do this work within to reflect what you want to see in the world. And you have to really embody it too. You can't just say it. You can't just preach it. You have to somehow incorporate it into your cellular tissue. And you got to wake up every day, and every day it's a choice. For me, even though I can see, I have that vision, I still am a human, and I wake up and I've got a choice. Am I staying on the right path, or am I going left? And now I know if I go left, what's going to happen. And you know what? That's no one else's responsibility but my own.
Absolutely.
Right? So,
man, that is powerful.
Yeah, I just want to tell you a little bit about my story, just a little bit, because everybody on my page has heard it a million times. But for the people on your page, I mean, you know, your wife and her family. First of all, real quick, I love the videos that you've been making with Deirdre. I think they're awesome. Your wife, the relationship stuff is so important. Again, the relationship improves when you improve yourself, and when you have a willing partner who's like, hey, I want to do this work too. So it's not like you're finding the perfect partner. It's like you got to work together and up-level each other, with love being that foundational principle.
That is so true.
So I was living a very healthy life. And this was up until I was around 21 years old. And I was doing all of the things that I was supposed to do at that time in my life. I had a healthy diet. So this may be different from other people's coming to illness, but I got what I needed to get my mind right, which looks a little different than what other people have to go through.
Right.
Somewhat of a healthy young girl. And all of a sudden I started to get arthritis. I started to be very fatigued. I started to have all of these physical health issues. I was only 21. Long story short, I was misdiagnosed for a year and a half by about 8 different doctors. They didn't know what was wrong with me. One told me I had osteoarthritis, which usually you don't get until you're well into your 50s or 60s. And I said, I'm 21, doc. I don't think that's it. It's difficult for mainstream medical culture to not have a diagnosis for you. They want to pinpoint, they want to put you in and mesh you into a condition.
Yep.
right? They couldn't find anything, but lo and behold, I did have something brewing, which was an autoimmune disease, which is called lupus, which is also, it's very prevalent among women, and it's very, very prevalent amongst women of color. And this is where your immune system turns on itself, and they don't have really any good information as to why this happens, albeit they say it could be a potential mishmash, multiple factorial things that can happen amongst the self, genetic, hormonal, environmental, that causes this immune system to flip.
Yeah.
I got really sick, and I ended up in kidney failure. It's a very common occurrence for people that have this autoimmune disease. Now, when I went into kidney failure, then I had all of the other issues, which are high blood pressure, because when your kidneys don't function, it affects every organ system. It affects your heart, it affects your life. It's, again, inside, guess what? We're all connected too.
Yep.
Even though like modern medical culture is very systemic in treatment plans, when your kidneys are having problems or you're having issues, it does start to trickle into all of the other organ systems. So it led into kidney failure. And I have to say that I said to my docs, I said, look, I practice yoga and I do meditation and I do these things to try to keep my mindset right. Now, this was 20 years ago. But I had a rheumatologist who said, it's not going to help you. You just need to take these drugs. You need to take this prednisone. You're getting very sick. You need to just take the drugs. So I was disempowered right from the jump in the medical culture. And it's probably different. I'm hoping a little different now, where somebody might say, hey, yoga's good for you if that's what you want to do. But what I will say to you is it's so pernicious to get disempowered in the system. And even if you take a drug, it may help you, but there's still fundamental things that you can do to help yourself that are very, very powerful.
Absolutely.
So I became very disempowered in the medical system, and I started to get sicker and sicker and sicker, which led into total kidney failure at 26. I ended up in a dialysis clinic. I was the youngest one there. I was amongst much older people, again, a ton of people of color who have had high blood pressure, diabetes, and I learned a lot about these people. And what I learned was, even though they've been through the system, to the medical system, to the degree of being on dialysis, they didn't have a lot of the information that I had studied before my illness about, like, nobody's talked to you about your diet, nobody's talked to you about your mindset. So I started to lose my head a little bit sitting in that dialysis chair, realizing how a lot of people sitting there either weren't invested in their health and wellness or didn't have the proper information, and the medical professionals weren't giving it to them. So I started to try to educate people, like, look, let's work on our stress. Let's talk about the fight or flight system. Let's talk about how this stuff affects the body. And it's funny because early on, I was labeled as a non-compliant patient because I had a lot of questions and I wanted to do everything I could to stay alive. Yeah. I didn't just comply. Right? So long story short, I've ended up having 2 kidney transplants. I should have been dead. I had a hemorrhage into my lungs at one point. I was a very sick girl. I didn't look like I do now at that time, but I never forgot my mindset practices. I never forgot where I came from. And I came from a lot of emotional upheaval with parents who didn't know themselves. They didn't know how to you know, it's difficult. A lot of parents grow up and raise us in ways that they don't know what they're doing either. We're all humans. And I had a lot of emotional trauma. So what I started to do was I realized, all right, Stephanie, like, your body is going through a lot of, you know, stuff. You have to figure out all the ways in which you can live and not die. So I listened to the medical professionals, but then I thought, you know what? I have such a responsibility in my own health and wellness here. I got to do whatever I can to surround myself with the right people, to encourage myself to do what I feel I want to do and not what society tells me to do. I got to break out of the box. I got to take risks. I got to fight my fear. I got to heal my emotional trauma. Like, if I don't clear out my system on the inside, I'm going to check out. So I felt like I had to do it. And that's been my journey. And that was along my journey of finding you. And I've had much other difficult situations as well, personal situations that aren't necessary to get into, that really led me into states of mind that were very hellish. I had to face my own death. I had to die before I lived. And, you know, a lot of powerful things happened to me that led me down some really crazy roads. You know, at one point I was researching, you know, all sorts of crazy things to try to investigate how I can hack this matrix and be well and live and thrive. And it led me here. And it was one of the reasons why I found you, is because I was like, this guy is saying something that's so incredibly needed and valuable for not just anybody in the world, but particularly the demographic of people that I was around most often when I was living in the healthcare system with dialysis and CKD. Is most of my buddies were African American. And I'm like, you know what? This is disgusting. We don't have the right information being given here. They don't have access to the right, you know, the particular food. They don't. So I just started to really gain this passion towards, what are the things that I've done that have worked, that are free, that aren't really difficult to attain? It's just a willpower. Like, what can we do to try to thrive when we have things working against us? And again, the most powerful thing we have in this journey is our self-worth.
Yep.
Costs a lot, but it's financially free, but it costs a lot, but everybody can do it. So you talking about this mindset and the emotions and how we get tripped up on a day in and day out basis keeps me also empowered. So really surrounding yourself with people that get you going. You playing your son's music at the end of your show, like I listened to that in the car, because even the energy that's infused in your son's music that you play on the show, when I listen to it outside of watching you, I'm in my car, I'm still energized because I'm connecting with the right resonance.
Absolutely.
Long story short, that's me. Tell me about you.
Wow, that was powerful. You know, and I kind of knew it. I didn't know that it was twice, you know. Then I didn't know that, wow, at 21, 23, that, you know, that all of this started happening, because that's when you kind of like in your prime, you know, you feel invincible young.
I had no prime. Which was fine. I started to live my life when I really started to awaken to my own self-awareness and to how the world really is. I had my prime. My prime is now. Let's just say that. I didn't do the things that 20-year-olds did, maybe for the better. I was praying and trying to stay alive during my 20s. But let me tell you, that experience that I had molded me. I wouldn't change it. I don't long for a different past. That crap that I went through, that challenge, that hell, am I going to die today? That's what lights me up.
Wow. Yeah. That's really what I call it, the touch tone of not only my message, but you know, when I resonate with people like yourself, when we've been through such, you know, quote unquote, you know, hell on earth, then we ain't really afraid of, you know, what's after this, because we kind of already experienced our, you know, our version of it on this dimension. And so it really lights a fire of passion to really live your life, you know, in faith instead of in fear, and really focusing on getting results. Because man, at your age, you know, and I got one more question though that I think is really, you know, important when we talk about what was it that gave you, especially the second time around. First of all, how come the first time didn't work? And so how did you get the mental resolve to do that again, you know, after you went through it once already?
Yeah. So, yeah, the first time I went through it, Will, I have to be honest with you, I was going in blind. I was really sick. I was going into the system, and I enmeshed in it. I became, you know, I got what I needed from the medical system. And in certain ways, the medical system does a good job, right? In other ways, we need massive change and improvement. But I really enmeshed in the system the first time. I was very sick girl. I was in a wheelchair for a year and a half. I couldn't walk. Like, it was really a mess.
Wow.
Just to let you know, some people don't know this, that kidney transplants don't always last forever. They consider it a treatment, not a cure. So that's kind of a misnomer. People think, oh, you got a transplant, you're good forever. Your body, that's not your body's tissue. The thing is also, you got to take a lot of medication to suppress your immune system. And some of the medications are actually nephrotoxic, which seems to be oxymoronic. So what happened was I had some problems throughout my first kidney transplant with the medicine affecting me in particular ways. And also I had a lot of urinary tract infections at the time. So what happened was, for some reason, we don't know exactly why, the kidney started to develop some scar tissue and atrophy. And at some point they said, you might need a replacement. There are some people, Will, that have had 2, 3, even 4 kidney transplants. Now you can't keep putting them in at some point. You just can't. But having 2 is really not uncommon. I don't know how long I got with this one. But the beauty of going through it 10 years later was that I had already done a lot of this work. So when the doctors were like, oh, your kidney function's starting to go down, I was kind of like, all right, bring it on. Like, I'm going to go in now with a hell of a lot more awareness. And I'm going to observe how the system works and how I'm really feeling through this. And this is really what catalyzed my work in regenerating healthcare, is to kind of go in with, I've been through this. I'm not as sick. I didn't have the lupus as active. I needed to get that kidney replacement. So I had more of that observational view. I felt like it was me. I felt it was like remote viewing into a system to see where I wanted to bring some change to it on the after side. So I was really driven that time to say, I know that we need to make change. And now I have the energy to be more observational when I go into the dialysis clinic and talk to more people to see what we need to change for this community of people. So that was my driving force. I was like, I'm either going to die or I'm going to go out really fighting and try to make a change, because I've seen all the ways in which this system disempowers people. And, you know, yes, they think they're doing a great job, but there's so much that they're blinded and biased to. It's not even funny. And I thought, I'm going to do something with this illness that I've maybe manifested for myself, for part of my purpose, to bring about change. So, you know, it was you're either going to die or you're going to really do it, and you're going to make something good out of this. So I felt like I only gave myself 2 choices. So I was either going to give up, or I was going to go in swinging and try to, you know, culminate. You can see behind me here, like I'm just I'm like you know, like I'm just constantly writing and creating. I just finished my 2nd book. I'm not like you. I haven't written. How many books have you written?
Wow. Well, published 100. So I published a little bit more than that, but I actually, you know, published a little bit over 100 books.
Wow. All right. So that's enough about me. Can you just tell our audience a little bit more about how you came to do what you do, because it's so incredible, so powerful?
Absolutely. You know, your story. So mine started when I was really young. Far back as I can remember, you know, I was raised in now what I would call a cult. It was a church that was split, and so we left. My mom, you know, my dad was nowhere in the picture. All together, you know, all my siblings, my mom was married twice. With all of us, it was 13 of us. 3-room home, you know, and I'm not talking about 3 bedrooms, 3 rooms, you know. So with her, and every weekend we would leave. And so far back that I can remember my childhood, it was always with this lady. I call her Sister X, and I talk about her in my book. And I would classify her now as someone that we would classify as a witch, or really what I now understand as a Wiccan, and also some of the I'd say voodoo type stuff. And so we did a lot of stuff she had a Bible, but a lot of things that we did when I was a child, for example, fasting. But back then, just like you, I wouldn't change it for anything, because it's kind of all of that stuff that I went through as a child now benefits me as an adult. And it's interesting how it flipped, but I had to go through all the anger and all that stuff. So long story short, my mom, I say was murdered. Obviously, they said she slipped into a diabetic coma and transitioned, and she died because she was on a 40-day fast, which was a requirement to get into heaven, to purify yourself. Scriptures anywhere, but that's a whole nother study. But when she transitioned, when she died, I think I was about 11, and obviously there was too many of us for one family member to take us, so we all got separated. And so I went to live with my biological father, who lived right outside of Houston, you know, in Katy. So I have brothers and sisters that, you know, still there. And, you know, Katie and I actually grew up in a little town called Fulshire, which is right next to Brookshire, right off of I-10, going into, you know, Sugar Land and all that area. So when I got there, you know, I was, you know, just in elementary school, and it was really interesting because my father really didn't want me there. You know, he had, you know, obviously he had remarried, had another family, and so I kind of came in. So there was fights, getting in trouble in school, because my mom had died. There was no bereavement. I had so much anger because the only caregiver I knew was gone. And that, it's just, you know, I think back, and, you know, with my siblings, when we do talk, we always talk about how do we get through that? You know, it's very interesting, but I look back now as an adult and look back at those times and those moments of the anger. You know, I tried to kill myself 3 times, you know, just because I was kind of like like a fish out of water. And then after the high school, I didn't really have any options. You know, my brother was, you know, he was this world-class athlete. He could have he had all of these college offers to play football, but we both decided to go into the military. So we both went into the Marines right out of high school. And that just kind of added to the anger, because they taught me how to funnel it, you know, how to channel it into, you know, self-help, self-improvement. So I got really into the physical aspect of it. I got really into, you know, self-defense. I took a lot of martial arts. So I got into hurting people, you know, kind of getting and all that stuff. So that kind of made it worse instead of better. Sat down and processed it mentally, not only the, you know, the bereavement and the grief that I had of losing, you know, my mom, but also just going through all of the stuff that was classified as spirituality and religion, but it wasn't, because we were beaten. We was forced to fast. We suffered from sleep deprivation. She would force us to stay up all night, and we would walk in circles. And we were supposed to be praying, you know, but out of everything that stood out was the way that she treated my mom. And I couldn't wrap my brain around as a child, you know, because she would beat her in front of us, and then she would beat us in front of her. And when she would do that, I would look to my mom like, I know you're going to interject, because this is not, you know, if you're going to discipline me, that's one thing, but I don't know this person. And so I was really messed up as a young man growing up, because I couldn't wrap my brain around why she would do that. And obviously, you know, I don't have the opportunity to talk to her now and ask her, but I had to go through all of that. Long story short, I went through, you know, when I tell this, people laugh because most people don't believe me, but I started 23 different businesses and all of them failed. I had 63 different jobs, 63. I just went from job to job. This is my second, you know, marriage. My first marriage, I was married 25 years. We moved almost about 20 times in that 25 years. So pretty much every was in a different home. And my kids, when they tell the story, you know, it's, you know, my oldest, she went to, I think it's like 13 different elementary schools. Elementary, and then middle school. And so I was messed up as a father because I didn't really know. And I got, you know, being like all of us, or not all, but a lot of us, you know, I met my first wife, you know, in San Diego. I was in the military. We were both really young. You know, neither one of us was really planning on. She got pregnant. So I'm thinking, I don't want my children to go through what I went through. So obviously, got to get married. And so it was like, and then it just, and I had no, you're talking about loss. I had no sense of purpose, no sense of direction. And nobody, I mean, I don't know if someone, if they had a pulled up and say, hey, young man, let me show you. I don't know if I would have received it. I had so much anger that I would, you know, I was so aggressive that I would bite the head off of anybody that tried to interject. So I try to think, man, I wonder if, you know, if I did have a mentor, you know, someone who does what I do, I don't even know if I would have been receptive. And so I just kept, you know, all I did was I just lived my life and fast. I did everything really fast. I don't know why. I just thought, I knew that there was something else, but I just couldn't find it. And I knew I knew that I had purpose. I knew I had a destiny. I knew that God put me on this planet for a reason. I just couldn't connect the dots. And so I went into the ministry. So, you know, I became licensed and I became ordained and eventually started my own church. And I bumped into and ran into, you know, which is the guy that really, really had a big impact on my life was Dr. Miles Monroe. And he had a book, and the first book he gave me was called The Power of Purpose, or The Potential of Purpose. And I was I was in my early 20s. I had 3 kids already, and I 23, and I was really had a hunger for God, and I was just devouring everything, and I went through all these self-help books, and man, I went through all of that stuff, but I still could not find my purpose. And I kept trying. I remember asking Dr. Miles Monroe, well, what is my purpose? And he would say, son, I know what your purpose is. I just know you got one, but I can't tell you specifically what it is. That, 10 years still searching. Then I got into all through my 30s, all through my 40s, and it wasn't until about in my mid 40s, late 40s, right before I hit that big 50 mark, that the light started to come on. And it wasn't that, it was something that was right. It was just, I had failed so much. There was no other options. I mean, there wasn't nothing else. I tried everything, and I could not find exactly something that resonated with my spirit that said, this is what loves you more than you love. It's automatic. It's like breathing. It's like you are good at it. I couldn't find it. And then I stumbled up on the first book I read, where it was called Witchcraft by Witchcraft. I think it was Barbara Shear. And then I read another book called Personality Plus. Then I did the DISC system. Then I did my Briggs-Myers system. And I went through all of these different personality systems. Find it. They all helped, but they didn't bam. It didn't hit me like a ton of bricks, like, bam, this is it. So I was close. So I knew what I had to do. So then I got into numerology. That helped out a lot, but still it didn't give me. Then I got into what is called, theomatics and understanding, the math, how numbers translate. Then I got into Dan Winter's work and understanding, phase, got into some of the physics of it, of understanding quote unquote numbers and religion and stuff. But the thing that really, really, really drove everything home for me after all the self-help and all that stuff, it was a book by Hank Hanegraaff called Christianity in Crisis. And he was talking about, faith in faith, and not, and then the difference between faith in faith, faith in God, and then faith in design, or understanding that everybody has a specific design. I still couldn't find what mine was, even though I went through all of this stuff that gave me an understanding of attributes and characteristics. Nothing really clicked until I really got into breaking down each letter of my own name. And then that's when I came up with my own little system now that I talk about every day, which is, this is my own personal book. Because I did. It's a combination. I combined all of the stuff that I've studied in numerology and different personality tests, but I wanted to tap into cosmology. There wasn't too much that talked about how does the constellations in the sky affect me. When I looked at it and I saw, okay, if the sun and the moon affect the ocean, and also, get into like the woman's cycle, like we're made up of water, anywhere from 50 to 70% water. So obviously the sun and the moon. So I went into the scriptures and I found all the verses that dealt with, cosmology, especially in the book of Job, when it talks about where was you when I spun the stars and I made the heavens, and when it talks about, Orion and the Pleiades. I think it's Job 38. So I went in there and I tapped into the 12, obviously the 12 major constellations and how they exude and how we are based upon our zodiac sign. So then I got into astrotheology. I got into a lot of Santos. I was last name, but
Bonacci.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah,
that guy.
Yeah.
I got into all of his stuff. So long story short, I found a system that helped me when I did my own diakonia report. And diakonia is a Greek word that just means service. Everybody's here to provide a service. Everybody has a mess that when you add a little age, it becomes your message. And that message is for a specific market, because they resonate with your message because they have a similar experience. And so once you start speaking with compassion and transparency or authenticity, because when I look at all the big time preachers and stuff, there are very few people talk the way as transparent as I do. My children, my ex-wife surely don't like it. My current wife don't like it too much. But I found out that's how pretty much I connect with people, by being honest. I'm not a guru. And from the perspective of, I made a lot of mistakes. If you want somebody that's a very, very moral person, that never lied and cheated on his wife and all that stuff, I'm not that guy. I'm gonna be honest with you. I had a lot of anger. That's no excuse though. I have to own what I've done. I tell I talk to my children at least about once a week, only because of I know, like, my father caused damage to my psychological development and understanding. I know I've done the same thing to my children. So I want to give them while I'm alive and here and can talk to them. I spend a lot of time with them. And we, once a year, you know, I pay for everything. We rent this big, huge Airbnb, and I post it on Facebook, and we all get together, ex-wife, my current wife, and people say, man, how y'all all get together in the same house for a week? We make it work because we all have the same intent, which is we want to move forward. We want to grow. We want to have fun. We want to, there's so much adversity. There's so much stuff going on. I'm not going to waste time. Like, I want to move forward. I only want to connect with people, just like you said, who want to have meaningful conversations, who are interested in doing the work, and the work is self. I'm not trying to, it's a full-time job working on me. And so that's all I say is, and that's why I stay busy. I stay busy because, number one, there's a lot of people need to hear the message. And then number two, it helps me stay focused, disciplined, and ordered. So that way I'm not drifting off in left field, finding myself, you know, it's a way for me to stay on the path. And it's something that I'm good at. And it's something that loves me more than I love. Because when I look at the numbers, you know, names change, numbers don't. Numbers are always the same. That's why I love math. I don't like traditional mathematics from the perspective of just adding up. I like math that brings about, and that's broken down and can give me meaning to my life. I'm really about results, because a lot of people, you know, and I can't say there's anything, you know, wrong with it, because everybody has a different purpose. But the thing that really, when I was going through, a lot of people put alongside, or a lot of people had different courses or different books, but I wasn't able to translate that into application. And so I'm not trying to do shows just for knowledge. I like knowledge. I think knowledge and information, the accumulation of facts and knowledge is great. But how can I apply that knowledge so that way I'm a better person, you know, I'm a better husband, or I'm a better father, you know, I'm a better life coach. So I like, you know, talking about, that's why I've written books, and so many books, because I want to try to present information that people can read and actually use and apply in their life. So I know that was a little lengthy, but
no, that's, I mean, your story is amazing, and I resonate with you because our life paths look different than what society usually tries to funnel us into, and the willingness to keep fighting to find your purpose and not just plug yourself in somewhere to just make money or just feel secure. It requires a different level of, I would say, devotion to yourself, to your purpose, and a different level of commitment. And what I love, especially at this time in history, is these sorts of people who have been given a complex life circumstance and have tried and continue to seek and haven't given up on finding what their purpose may be, and differently than you. I would like to call myself a past runner. So I moved a lot as well. I'm moving here, I'm chasing something that I couldn't quite taste or put my finger on. And then feeling anger and resentment to the institutions or the businesses who weren't doing the things that I knew needed to be implemented. So I was going to either run out of energy or steam running, trying to find this thing, or I was going to realize that what I was looking for was within me. And I had to find a way to gain the confidence and trust my process enough to know that, hey, I need to actually, maybe I need to do this. Maybe what I'm seeking for needs to come out of me. And I think that there are so many people in this world who have this genius within them. And it might not look like the traditional academic genius route, but they have this incredible wisdom genius within them. But because there's no platform that exists for them, or there's no particular role for them to just go to school and now I have a place to do my thing, right? I'm a lawyer, I have a law office. I'm a doctor, I have a hospital. when you're thinking on this level, you're not only creating and learning about yourself and figuring out the patterning of how you want to do things, but then you also have to create the entire road and how that's going to look within the world. Are you going to have a brick and mortar? Are you going to work from your office? How are you going to get your material out? So there's such an amazing level of nuance that you have to master. You're your own marketer, you're your own creator, you continue to learn and become malleable and change. And these people, I think, they're artists. To me, they feel like they're artists, but they're artists that don't hide away to perform their brilliance. So sometimes I think about like a painter, and I think like most painters or writers, they're in isolation, processing this emotional, transcendent, feelings onto their piece of art or writing their music. What is behind that? You and I are individuals who are like, I'm actually sharing with you like my process to the level of understanding and my own genius. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
And you can only do it when you're authentic. And if you're going to be that degree of honest and authentic, then you best be doing your own work every day or you're a fraud. So that's like the level of nuance that people who do this kind of work that you and I do, the self-work it requires to maintain that integrity. Now, we're not perfect, but we're trying to convey ourselves in the world with the deepest honesty and like this pulling this wisdom from the abstract and trying to implement it into the world is a lot of work.
Yes.
Because we don't permit ourselves to fragment and to compartmentalize and say, well, I'm really good here. I'm a really great doctor, but my personal life is atrocious and I just pretend like it's great. You and I are trying to bring our fragments, our pain, our suffering back together with a level of meaning. We're extracting meaning from it and then processing it, healing it, and translating it, transmitting it out into the world to maybe hopefully give someone else inspiration that no matter what you're going through, you want to change, you can do it. Even if you have nothing, even if you have everything and you're afraid to lose everything you've created and start anew, you can do it. You don't have to be stuck in this perceived reality that you think that you were given. You have to get out of that and literally create the reality that you want to see. And it requires a lot of self-work. But once you know, once you see, once you know, right, you can't, it's too difficult to disconnect from that within yourself. It's not only that you may become a fraud out in the real world, but once you know, you can't live with yourself if you become a fraud to yourself. So it's like you want to commit to continue to do this.
Absolutely. I mean, you hit the nail on the head right there by being, it's almost like we are artists of life from the perspective of like kind of like life artistry, because we are creating the system as we go from the perspective. When I told my daughter this when she was young, either, find a system or create your own. And because everybody, just like our fingerprints, no two people have the exact same fingerprint. So no two people have the exact same artistry. And so the thing that really resonates and the thing that you're doing, which I really, really like, is that even though someone may be going through something similar to you from a medical perspective, their experience is going to be a little bit different, and the way by which they transition is going to be different. And same thing with me. So what we provide people is this freedom to be authentically themselves.
Yes.
And it is just because we live in a world where a lot of people are afraid to be themselves because they're going to get judged or criticized. And I'm sure you probably, like me, we may get some flack from even this video. Someone will have to find something to, whether it's, hey, what's all that distraction stuff in the background, man? Can you get a green screen? Or, wait, what's this? I hear this all the time, but I've made it okay for me to be my authentic self. And I know I'm not everybody's cup of tea, but there are some people who resonate with what I'm saying. And so that's what this video, and that's what my work is for, and that's what your work is for. It's for the people who really get us and really realize. And there are some people who need a script and they need a 12-step program. You know, you are the script. You are the program.
Mm-hmm.
Not you are living your life from a place of being authentic and being intuitive. And this, you know, when you're living from your gut, you bring your heart and your head along, but we really paying attention to the spirit, and we're not getting too churchy or new agey, but it's still there is a sense of truth to actually being, led by the spirit, really tuning into your inner self, your soul. And because what my soul says to me may be different from what yours or someone else's may say. So I got to be me, and I got to make it okay for me to be me. And my self-image, a lot of people's self-image is so fragile. And so we have this sense where, because our self-image is not really, we're not, I tell people all the time, God doesn't make junk. We may have went through some events, but we're not those events. The things happen, but we're not the event. We go through the event. But if you can really tap into your self-image, because most problems come from a lack of understanding or a lack of clarity of self. When you see that, okay, I'm not my problem. I have them, sure, but I'm not them. I'm going through them, and I'm going to find a way to transition, monetize, move on. So that way I'm not pigeonholed and I'm not limited by this particular one event. This is something that happened, but I'm gonna figure it out. And so when you approach life with that disposition, is that, yeah, it might take me a day, 2 days, a week, a month, but eventually I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna figure out a way to. So I don't like owning or limiting. The sky's the limit, the universe is the limit. And so my message to people is always the same, and that is, man, we are fearfully made, just like it said in the scripture. And it's just for us to see ourselves the way Source designed itself. And so that's what I really call this, is like I say, Dear Canel, but really it's a design report. I just show people how they're designed and just let them know that, man, if you align your mind with your God-given design, you're guaranteed to shine. It's just, you can't help it because you're designed that way. You're designed to shine. And I look at you, and like I say, like I tell you all the time, because you're shining. And the reason, and it's not because of a man, it's not because of, your job or how much self. And everything else, all of the stuff, it's great to have the stuff. I'm not saying, I like the fancy cars, big houses, but that's not who I really am. It's really important that we really tap into our true, authentic self, and universe, present that to the universe. That's powerful.
That's amazing. And you know what just came up for me is this commodity of energy. We seem to be living amongst a society where there is such a depletion of energy, and our energy balance is very out of balance. Look at, I mean, many of you on this channel know me, but you might not know Will. But if you do know Will, is we exude a lot of energy. Yes. And one thing I will say is, you know what? I don't have all of the things. I'm not married. I don't have a partner. I don't have anybody I'm taking anything from that's giving this to me. My energy and my excitement and my gratitude and compassion and empathy come from that very thing you're saying, is I am connected to my purpose. I have meaning. I'm connected to the divine. That is what gives me energy and health. And I do believe there's a couple people online that I really like who talk about us being in a state of having a meaning crisis. Like, we're kind of, COVID has maybe exposed what a lot of us have already known, is that our jobs may be dead end. We're not happy in particular relationships. It's kind of ripped this Band-Aid off of a lot of issues. Yes. And people are starting to, realize, like, why am I here? What is my meaning? It's kind of this meaning crisis. And in order to reestablish who you are now and find your purpose and find your meaning, you have to go upstream and reverse engineer. I think I heard you talking about this the other day, to the degree of, okay, hold on. What are my current values? Who am I? Am I aligning with what my values are? You literally have to go upstream and reinvestigate who you are as a person, and then decide if you're not living in accordance to what your values are, you might have to make a change. And that's where, if you don't have mental strength and a sense of emotional understanding, you're going to get tripped up over and over again trying to become the person that you're actually truly meant to be at this time. I want to read you this quick quote that I've been hearing circulating around, which I think is so important. It's by a guy named Edward Wilson. He says, the real problem of humanity is the following. We have Paleolithic emotions, medieval institutions, and godlike technology.
Wow.
So I think it's, for us, we have godlike technology. For us not to get our limbic system hijacked watching Facebook or watching the news, you got to go back to those, you got to reframe the Paleolithic emotions, and you have to start to heal, look at yourself, look at your traumas, like you said, your anger, and really start to heal this. So when you see it out in the world, you're not constantly pulled out of your center and you become split and polarized and biased, creating all of these separations. That's just going to continue to leak energy from you. And you may have moments of Thanksgiving, like tomorrow, but then what's going to happen a week after Thanksgiving?
Exactly.
So
wow, that's powerful.
yeah, we need to go back to our thinking and our feelings and our values and just, rediscover who we are. And like I said, Will, we've been on for quite a while, so we'll probably get off soon. And hopefully maybe I can get a chance to talk to you again. But what I want to say is what you're doing is so important, because not only do you show up with energy and commitment every day on your channel, every day, sometimes twice a day. I watch as many as I can, even if I can't get on live. You bring to the table what helps to remind me of my meaning and purpose, and this connection to everybody watching, your connection to the people that you're with, these meaningful conversations, they don't give you something that you take from, but it's a resonance and a reminder that yes, it kind of boosts up that excitement a little bit. And you helping people to find their purpose through your Diakonia report, through what you're talking about every day, that's the only way we're going to be able to be less divided, is when we find our purpose. Things that all of the narratives that we have going amongst the world right now, all of the division and polarization, I don't focus on that, because I've done that work within myself so I can maintain the more abstract, higher vision of creating the reality that I want. When I look at you, and I know that you've done this work extensively, when I look at you, I don't see anything about you that triggers me or polarizes me, or I look at you and I get excited. And if other people can't have these relationships with people from whatever gender or whatever race, whatever it is, if you don't, as a woman, if I don't love the man, I couldn't be sitting here with you today having this powerful conversation. If I have a problem against any racial issues, I couldn't be sitting here getting all excited talking about creating the future with you. I've dealt with that stuff within myself, and I know it's an issue, but I hold it in my heart, but I focus on where we're going and not where we're stuck.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is so well said, especially we living in this duality of polarity, and there is a constant promotion for division, and this this deranged promotion is just bombarded every day, all day. And so to be able to establish some type of singularity where we're able to set aside the differences and come together, whether we're talking about race or whether we're talking about religion, or we're talking about the digital divide and economics. There's so many different areas that they're doing their darnest to polarize us and to separate and to continue to cause this division. Mm-hmm. And the only way that works is if you don't have a true understanding of self. That's because right. I know, and that I'm more than this flesh body. Yep. I'm first, mm-hmm. soul second, body third. And so if we go up higher and we look at life from and with a true spiritual perspective, not necessarily a religious one, because that's a part of the dividing. And so spiritual place, at the end of the day, you know, if I take your heart out, if I take a heart out from someone, you know, Japanese, you know, Puerto Rican, black, white, you know, we all are the same. You know, tell us apart if I put them all, if I put a bunch of kidneys together and so forth, from a biological, and then we go up higher from a spiritual perspective, and being able to operate from that viewpoint is a whole lot more rewarding, it's more fulfilling, and it's more powerful, because you can get more things done when you have singleness of mind. And the Bible says the same thing from the perspective of a double-minded man will not receive anything. And so the way that I operate and what I share is that, you know, my head, my heart, and my gut all have to be on the same page inside of myself first before I can assist and help anyone else. And so if we can all, that's always my message with all of the clients, that's where I start. My whole system is about, you know, identifying the current habit pattern and replacing it with the original, you know, the true life-sustaining pattern, because we all have it. It may be buried down there underneath all of the religion and all the stuff we saw, and all of the learned behavior and the learned helplessness. It's time to get back to being the true creative, powerful beings that we are. We are individual expressions of source on earth. We have to learn how to carry ourselves as such. And so that's why I see that, and that's what you're doing, and that's what I'm doing. So yeah, we got to do this again sometime.
Yeah, I have a lot more things that want to come through, but I think we'll save it for another day. I've taken up enough of your time. But for everybody who wants to get in contact with Will, I'm going to leave the information in the Facebook chat. We're also going to upload this to YouTube, so I'll have all of his information there. And I highly suggest you watch his videos. They're inspiring. You've come through hell multiple times. And to me, that's the only way we're going to get through this hell that we're facing, that people are seeing in the world, is if we have people who aren't claiming perfectionism and everything in my life is always good and I'm such a great person. The transformation is going to come from the people who've already transcended their own personal hell and are living and inspiring and energetically doing the work to help others now. So thank you so much for joining me, Will. And I hope to talk to you again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Stephanie. It's been an honor.
And before you go, one thing, please make more videos with your wife too, because this idea of relationships evolving between man and woman is so incredibly powerful, and understanding our individuality as two souls with a journey with God, and then coming together, not from a codependent place, but really coming together from a place of honoring one another and honoring the polarity of a man and a woman.
Yes, that is so important, because as you guys know, that's the only way it works. You know, I can't control. I mean, I tried that already and it didn't work. And so I got to allow, you know, I mean, it's not, and that is a great point. Being able to having two whole individuals who have their own way of doing things that may be a little different from yours, but you unconditionally allowing them to be themselves, and vice that mutual love and mutual respect is so important, not only in the business realm, but also in relationships. And a lot of times that's what's missing.
Yeah, so and you're right. That is so powerful. And this is, I think, to extend this just another minute, but then to end it, is that's where we become more powerful collectively, is when we unbias ourselves enough, when we depolarize ourselves enough to hang out with people that are different than us and optimize our differences. So, you know, if you can hang out, if you're, you know, if you consider yourself whatever you are, and you can relate and respect somebody that appears to have different opposite thinking than you, and you can somehow coalesce together, the power between those two forces is so great. But the issue also is that sometimes that negative ego wants to like step in and be like, I'm right, let me, you know, this person's doing what they're doing. But if you can manage to not judge someone else who's really different than you, and you can work together, the magnetism is out of this world when you have polarity like that. And in a business, if you have these different people who can hold their space without judging.
Yes. Yes. There we go. But that is so true. I was just thinking exactly what you said is so powerful. And the only way to do that is if you are really comfortable in your own skin, because then you're not intimidated and feel like you have to validate and prove yourself, because you are so confident in your purpose and in your position.
Yep.
It's okay for someone to disagree with you because they are allowed, because they're in a different purpose or position. So
I think our next conversation should maybe revolve around that, because that's so powerful, is the work that it takes on the self to be able to hold these relationships without judgment and getting triggered. It requires to gain the confidence. And you know what's so interesting is, unfortunately, some people who might not have that confidence can misconstrue that confidence as arrogance. And it's like, no, it's not arrogance. I just really know myself. And I don't need to judge this person who holds a different opinion, because I'm confident and respect that they can have their own way of being as well. Takes a lot. I mean, think about that. Takes a lot.
that is so true.
All right,
That's
Will.
a good topic.
Okay, I'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much.
All right,
Okay.
Stephanie. Thank you.
Bye.
God bless.